Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. Boy, the internet is divided on this movie, man. And not that divided. People seem to not like it. But hey, you'd be surprised. Andy and I haven't read the book. Maybe not as bad as people say. Hear me out. Hear me out. We'll get the review coming up shortly. We're also going to take a look at Nuremberg. I was trying to come up with some kind of funny joke about like an episode about problematic men, and I couldn't quite land on it. This is about the Nuremberg trials, of course, where the world tried the Nazis following the events of World War II. Stars Russell Crowe, Rami Malek, Michael Shannon is in this movie. You might have missed it when it came out last year, bit of a smaller one. But I'm looking forward to talking about it. Stick around for the Nuremberg review. We're going to take a look at some upcoming trailers. Our first TV corner trailer, I think, ever, with the Spider-Noir trailer over on Amazon Prime with Nicolas Cage starring as our lead in a Spider-Man show. Obsession, The Mandalorian and Grogu's got a new trailer. Before we get to all of it, let's talk about the news. Light news week this week. Let's get into it. First things first, Chicken Shop Date creator Amelia Dimoldenberg is going to star in and produce a romantic comedy about a celebrity interviewer. This is kind of expanding on our YouTubers are going to seemingly start making movies now thing, which not necessarily is coming from Markiplier, but certainly feels inspired. Some weird news from a kind of reality show, Chicken Shop Date. It's a little like Hot Ones, but it's more casual. I think it's out of the UK, right? What do you know about Chicken Shop Date, Andy?
This is a trend that I'm going to be calling from stream to screen. And it's this trend of YouTubers, smaller creators getting film deals because it's cheap, I think, number one. It's kind of it's new talent. It's not expensive stars. It also is something with a built-in audience. This relates to the Markiplier movie Iron Lung from a couple of weeks ago. That's been a huge hit. It cost $3 million to make. It's made almost $50 million worldwide, and so I think the studios are looking at this and said, "Hey, there's some potential here. Let's see what other creators." And so, if you don't know Amelia Dimoldenberg and Chicken Shop Date, her show, she goes around London. She's from the UK. She eats at different fried chicken places, and she does a casual interview. And she initially started with like kind of nobodies, eventually started doing smaller stars, and eventually does some pretty big names. She's interviewed Billie Eilish, Idris Elba, and Andrew Garfield. And while she's interviewing them, she also kind of is a little bit flirtatious. Like she asks about like dating and relationships and stuff. She asks a lot of kind of digging questions, more than you would in kind of a normal interview, and it's a little fun, and she has a really good chemistry, and she's become kind of a Gen Z star in this way. Like she's done the Oscar red carpet several years in a row. She's going to be doing it again, and so now she's going to be doing a movie basically based on her show, or it's like the pitch is similar to what she does on her show. Someone that does interviews with people, he kind of falls in love with a celebrity, and then it's a rom-com basically, but it's loosely based on what the show that she already does. It's an interesting idea, and again, she's well known among like Gen Z, built-in audience, YouTubers. We might have something here.
Yeah, she's got a really big global following, enough so that she built her own production company, Dims Inc., named after her name, Dimoldenberg. And that's who's going to be producing this. So just like Markiplier making Iron Lung, this is an in-house thing. She's got a couple of talented producers backing her that have more history in Hollywood and Netflix specifically, but otherwise this is pretty much going to be her own thing. And yeah, the premise is a lot like her own life, right? Her own show. You're playing a journalist who is kind of responsible for interviewing folks who's when they do a routine celebrity interview and things go sideways and turns into a romance that makes her question everything she believes about love. Like I can see the shape of that. I guess I'm curious to see how contemporary it is, because in my head I'm imagining almost like this like 90s, early 2000s bouncy rom-com trailer where it's like, oh my gosh, will they, won't they? And like I'm kind of hoping, especially because it's coming from somebody so contemporary, it's more grounded, maybe more like, I don't know, like mockumentary style, right? A lot like The Moment, which we just watched last week with Charlie XCX, who's been on Chicken Shop Date, or I don't know, like Nirvana, the show, the band, the movie, like something like that, like something a little bit more I don't know, digital, but we'll see. I don't know what exactly it's going to be. The big determining factor in how well this is going to do is how well can our girl act, right? Like that'll be it. She's going to be the beating heart of the movie. Big shoes to fill, right? Big shoes to fill. Big heavy weight to carry, and something that really surprised me in the moment watching with Charlie XCX a couple weeks ago, because Charlie is genuinely funny and is genuinely dramatic and like actually manages to carry her parts of that performance. Movie split out a little bit more, but for the most part, she does great, and I'm looking forward to seeing her more. So this will be a good step out for Amelia Dimoldenberg. Big step up. We'll see. We'll see. I guess that's what we know about the Chicken Shop Date movie. Any idea of a title or like a release date? I guess.
It's probably a couple of years away. It's in the writing phase. I think Dimoldenberg can probably hold her own because she'll essentially be playing herself, so that's easy enough. And while her show is not scripted, it is still kind of reality TV where you do have to do like a fair amount of acting, or you got to redo takes and things like that. So I'm sure she'll be fine. It'll be a question of what kind of audience does it pull in.
Yeah. Speaking of audiences, this other story is very odd. Jason Statham is going to be teaming with David Leitch again to make a movie called Jason Statham Stole My Bike. It's an action comedy. This thing has been getting a lot of attention this last week because Statham doesn't take a lot of projects. He usually does like one or two a year now. And he says, hey, you're going to pay me $20 million or I'm not doing it. This is why that movie Send Help that just came out is like doing really poorly because he commands a huge bill. The Beekeeper, he wanted $20 million for it. It made it over the top. But this is him and the Beekeeper guy again, David Leitch. And they're just hitting it right on the head. Jason Statham is a meme. Right? It's like Nick Cage being an unbearable weight of massive talent. What do you know about this, Andy?
Right. Details are a little sparse, but we know Jason Statham will be playing himself in an action comedy role, which he can do comedy because the comedy happens around him and he just kind of still plays it straight. The kind of eye-popping part of this, it's an $80 million budget. It is an expensive movie, so there must be some pretty big action set pieces. It's gotta be really funny. David Leitch has previously done Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, so he's familiar with the genre. I think it'll probably be really good at action. I think the more challenging part is like the meta aspect nature and if it's funny or not. The Nick Cage movie where he played himself was not very good and not very funny, and it was like the trailer is kind of the entire joke, but I think this has room for a lot more comedy.
I hope it comes to theaters. It looks like Amazon's circling rights right now, and it feels like in the wrong hands, this will go straight to a streamer and will get attention for a week, and then everybody will forget it. And I think Statham, especially with the title and kind of the premise here, is kind of approaching that meme status of why not? Why can't Statham be a goofy version of himself in a movie? It looks like it's targeting PG-13. I'm a little afraid it's going to be like Last Action Hero stuff, but could be fun. Major action set pieces, like you said, they've got that here. So, I don't know. I think it could work. I think the comedy is going to be a big part of it. It's got to be funny, especially with a title like Jason Statham Stole My Bike. Whose bike did Jason Statham steal? We don't know. We have to wait and find out. Filming's lined up for May 2026. Like you said, $80 million budget. I'm sure Jason Statham's taking nearly a fourth of that, which is crazy. But hey, man, my man knows where he punches weight, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think it's got potential to be really funny, and you're gonna have a lot of over top action. And his action can be anywhere from PG-13 to R. It'll stick to the PG-13 more family friendly side, so there won't be like blood and guts. It'll just be more friendly for that sort of thing. So I'm excited for this. This is happening right now, or being sold at the Berlin Film Festival, which is happening right now. And like I said, it was causing a lot of buzz over there.
Yeah, I just realized right before we jump into box office, one of the movie posters I have in my office is Crank 2. Is Jason Statham putting one part of a jumper cable on his tongue and the other part on his nipple. Awesome. Yeah, I think why not put Jason Statham in a Jason Statham Stole My Bike movie. I think that sounds fine. I think we'll all get behind that. One more story from the box office this week. Wuthering Heights is kind of killing it. But also this animated movie Goat is really sneaking in and making some big money, which I think is a bit of a surprise. What do you know about it?
really great weekend at the box office for a lot of movies and a lot of original things. That's someone pointed out this is the first time in a while that we've had the top 5 have been all original films. Wuthering Heights exceeded expectations with 38 million domestic, 83 million globally against an $80 million budget. It's doing really well. Exceeded. Most people thought it was going to be maybe the 20 to 30, which was already pretty high. Exceeded that. We got a hit on our hands. And whether we're talking about the controversy later and whether you liked it or not, it's a win for cinema. I saw it in a packed theater. Everyone was into it. So it's a hit. It's probably going to have some legs for at least another week or two. We'll see where that goes.
I'm glad Margot Robbie's getting a hit in, because after Big Bold Beautiful Journey came out last year, like that movie kind of bombed. It was a $45 million picture and it made just north of 20 million. So I'm glad to see she's getting one in. And for what it's worth, for all the hate Wuthering Heights is getting, I'm glad it's doing well. We need more sex at the theaters, all right? That's good for everybody. Less violence, more banging. It's a little bit of intimacy. It's a little bit of kindness. I think it's good for it's good for the country. The country is healing. What do they say now? Gen Alpha is all afraid of banging in movies? Not so, all right? And movies like Wuthering Heights, even though they're weird and kinky and messed up, they push that kind of thing, right? Just a little bit like Materialist did. So like, I'm into this movie doing good. I am glad this movie is doing good. I think there's a lot of haters out there who are like, it's terrible. 1 star, it's a bomb. Come on, gang. Think bigger. It's good that people are going to the movies. This is good. What about this? What about Goat? How did this movie make so much money?
So the animated film Goat, which is loosely based off Steph Curry, or like an idea by Steph Curry, similar. It's like an underdog basketball thing, and it's animated animals. The goat is the main character. Made $26 million. I had seen a little bit about this film, and I was like, where did this come from? 41 million worldwide. Another huge hit from Sony Animation, who of course made K-pop Demon Hunters, which you may have heard of. Huge movie there. In third place, we had Crime 101, was a new crime film starring Chris Hemsworth and others, which looks really bland. Came into 15.1 million. Apparently, that was super expensive. It was like a $90 million movie, and so it's kind of a bomb. But it's really expensive. Send Help, having a good third week, 9 million. 72 million worldwide, continues to do really well. And the Kevin James rom-com Solo Mio, where he goes to Italy, another 6.8 million for a total of 17 million. Just domestic. I don't think that's getting a global release.
I think Goat is, kind of another example, just like K-pop Demon Hunters, of Sony Animation not pushing their projects hard enough. And I'm getting really tired of it. I'm getting really tired of the studio seemingly turning out banger after banger and everybody just underwriting them or thinking it's not going to work or being lame. Admittedly, I do think Goat's premise is a little flat, but hey, it's got basketball. It's got a lot of basketball stars. It's got, sneakers and hoops, and it's got kind of a trademark animation style that speaks towards quality that people want to see. Put that out in a quiet weekend when there's not a lot of family flicks out, it'll pull some numbers, right? And that's exactly where it's at. K-pop Demon Hunters over on Netflix could have done really great in theaters, but they kind of under-expected it a little bit. Didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Even like, Meet the Mitchells or whatever that movie was, like did okay for them on Netflix and got a bunch of attention. And I think that's getting a sequel. So I don't know. I didn't really see that movie doing that good, but the fact that it's doing well, I think is a good thing. Send Help is a banger for Sam Raimi. All right. Love it. Raimi heads. Congratulations. That's a winner. All right. He's doing good. It's made its money. And as for Crime 101, we are not covering this film on the podcast, at least not this weekend, which being the release weekend probably would have been the weekend we'd do it. Andy and I do a movie podcast. I've been doing this for a long time. He and I heard absolutely nothing about this feature. So if they had a marketing budget, they didn't spend it. Like I think I saw a trailer maybe, like in front of a movie like that we went and saw recently. Otherwise, like no one's talking about it. And then it comes out and it's like, oh no, a $90 million blunder. And the rest of us are like, dude, what do you mean $90 million? Like, where'd you spend it? You didn't spend it in advertising. So I'm a little bummed, but like maybe it's good. I don't know. Maybe it's fire. I haven't seen it.
I've heard that it has decent action and it's got a lot of star power. It's got a terrible title. It's called Crime 101. It's reminiscent of like, English 101, but it takes place along the 101 freeway in Los Angeles. And so it's a kind of double meaning sort of thing. But it's just so forgettable. It doesn't look like anything you would remember. So we'll probably catch that on streaming in like a month, honestly.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it in my living room. I'm sure it's fine. All right.
In 4 parts.
Yeah, man. Big weekend at the box office though. Otherwise, man, we're safely through January, and January did pretty good. Pretty solid Valentine's weekend. Unless I think you are a reader of Wuthering Heights and thought the movie was going to be like the book, in which case you may have been sorely disappointed. A good transition into Wuthering Heights. You ready to talk about it?
Perfect. Yes.
Perfect. Andy's been taking the summary, so I will get out of his way. Andy, please take it away.
So this is the latest film from Oscar-winning director Emerald Fennell, who I've been a hater of for her last two films for good reasons. I think that she is a good director, but not a good writer, and she's always writing her own projects. But I do think she has good vision and a good eye for cinema. She just needs to work with someone who can write a little bit better. This is the umpteenth version of Wuthering Heights. It has been adapted over 35 times. There's literally over 100 years of adaptations of this property in both film and TV. And so what we get is something that's a little bit, what I'm calling, the way The Shining book and movie are vastly different things. That's what this is a little bit. It takes the premise of Wuthering Heights, which I'll get into in a little bit, that some of us know, and we get about the first third of the book, and then it starts to divulge into a kind of romantasy fan fiction, which is not a derogatory phrase. It's just the way I'm describing it at this point. Some people have had a big problem with it. I have said you have to critique the movie as it is, not the one that you wish that it was. And Emerald Fennell has been very clear in saying this is not a direct adaptation. It's not like a one-to-one period piece. It's kind of just taking inspiration from there. So to recap our story, a young Catherine Earnshaw, or the Earnshaws are landed gentry in 1840s, the Yorkshire moors. They are a wealthy-ish family, but kind of on the brink to maybe being not so. The father brings home a young urchin, Heathcliff, played by the great Owen Cooper, who recently won an Emmy for Adolescence. He's adopted into the family, but not like a full member. He's essentially a farmhand, a slave is a better term probably. So him and Catherine develop a friendship, develop this lifelong kind of love for each other, but they can never be together because of class, and in the book, apparently race, which we'll talk about more later. Eventually, Catherine marries for money to the great Edgar Linton, who lives next door, who's bought the estate next door. Heathcliff runs away, returns many years, having become a rich man himself. And that's kind of where things would begin to diverge. But the movie is incredibly stylistic. She's taken a lot of interesting things. I was hooked from the opening scene. I was really surprised. I was like, oh man, she's got me. She's got me early. And then it went on from there. So that's what our setup. A whole lot to talk about. Zach, what do you think?
So I kind of liked Wuthering Heights, and I feel like I was surprised coming out of the theater to see such visceral responses to it, because people really did not like this movie. And it's like, I didn't like Emerald Fennell's last two movies. Their last two movies, I was lulled in. It's a stupid Tina Fey meme from that podcast, right? Like, I was lulled in by like the wonderful visuals of Lena Sandgren's cinematography and this wonderful casting of these characters she's got in her last two movies, Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. And then the third act gets weird and psychosexual, and I'm not into it, and it's gross. Wuthering Heights just opens with that scene. It just opens with the scene that's very challenging and descriptive and graphic of what sounds like a man who may be fornicating or having some kind of sex, and then it turns out he's actually like hanging from a noose and gasping for air. And then we get a bunch of kids who are making fun of him and the weird boner the guy's got, and then it cuts to like, welcome to hell, we're all sinners here. What Wuthering Heights, Warner Brothers presents. You know what I mean? It's this film that's like in this weird Tim Burton sort of hell where no one ever really gets out and no one ever really comes in. Like, we are out on the moors. We never really break out of that. And everybody in it is an absolute monster. Everyone sucks. Everyone's bad. Everyone's abusive. Everyone's terrible. And I haven't seen a lot of movies like that this year. And I think it's a perspective that I wasn't expecting. Like, I walked in thinking this is going to be the greatest love story ever told. And I came out thinking, like, that was fucked up and weird. And I kind of liked it in a way that I didn't think I was maybe, I don't know. I didn't expect. And if that was the intention, it worked. But if you're coming in for a Wuthering Heights adaptation, I think you will be sorely disappointed because it almost isn't one. Like, it is closer to an original script than it is a Wuthering Heights adaptation. It's got some large problems. We should talk about adaptation and what that means, but where do you want to go? Plot? You want to dig into like what's here on the screen or what's off the screen? Because I feel like those are the two things we have to address in this review.
Yeah, let's start with what's on screen. So it starts like a very normal looking period piece, and this opening scene with this hanging is really intense because at one point the crowd is cheering. Young Catherine Earnshaw is like, yeah, this guy's about to die. And then the Charlie XCX score comes pumping in. And I was hooked. I was like, man, this like she's cooking from the beginning. And it starts to look normal, but then it very clearly kind of diverts from that in its visual style. When we get to when we see the Earnshaw house, it like looks very modern, and it's like in these mountains, which, geographically doesn't make sense. And this, at this point, is where, you're in kind of a fantasy world.
Yes.
But the house just doesn't look, it's not a period house. And there's lots of things eventually. And the longer it goes, the more fantastical it begins to look. It begins to take on a very kind of fairy tale look, reminding me of there's allusions to Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Little Red Riding Hood, these kinds of things. And again, the longer it goes, the more stylistic it gets, the more Baroque. Like there's, you might have seen these things where the floor in the Linton household is just bright red, this waxy red, and so is her dress. It's just these popping colors, and it just gets more and more intense the longer it goes. And this is the thing that I think really hooked me and that I didn't expect from the way it started, is that, it goes completely into fantasy world very, very soon. And it does with the story as well. In the, from what I understand in the book, our two leads their love is never really requited. They like hold hands, once maybe share a kiss. In this, it's a whole passionate thing. They get together a whole lot. But the visual language of the film I thought was really interesting, and it really grabbed me from the beginning.
Yeah, the cinematography is obviously a notable part of her films. Lena Sandgren is currently shooting Dune 3. He's taken over for Greg Fraser. Before that, he shot like La La Land and First Man and Babylon with Damien Chazelle. He shot Emerald Fennell's films. So like these films obviously have a very big, bold look. I've seen some people criticize the lighting. I've seen people criticize the set design. I think those are both probably fair. There was a good chunk of Act 2 in here where like a lot of the Wuthering Heights like household, Catherine Earnshaw's like home where her father is like gross, and like the tiles all glossy and it's dark, so it's kind of hard to see. But then you break into the Linton's like estate, right? Like the neighbors who move in down the street, and she learns about Mr. Linton, who she kind of is interested in, and figures that he'll probably be her suitor because that's how this works in this crazy world. And when you finally get a look at their place, it's like an alien planet. It's like all of this like wealth and stuff brought in from around the world, and all of these butlers, and they've got fancy wigs, and they have these fancy teacups, and then you get into like the house, and there's like this incredible fireplace with these like plaster hands and stuff. And like you said, this like red reflective floor, insane gowns. The costume design is not, this is getting a costume design nod for sure. Come 2026 Oscars. Like the Charlie XCX score is bumping. It doesn't work for everybody. And also the buildings look crazy. The buildings look nuts. There's a couple shots of like establishing shots of buildings in here that I laughed at because they look so goofy and weird. But also, like, outside of that opening scene in the town square, Catherine Earnshaw never escapes this world. She never goes into town. She never gets on a boat. She is trapped between the moors and the Linton and the Earnshaw estates. That's it. That's the whole damn movie. So as far as I can tell, we're in hell, right? This is effectively hell. Like, there is nowhere else. This is all we have. So when she develops this relationship with Heathcliff, which is kind of a little incestuous and a little weird, they're kind of like brother and sister, but not really. And there's this thing where she gave him his name, which is new and isn't in the book as I understand it. Like, that feels weird and strange. And then when they discover like fornicating, when they stumble onto like a couple of servants getting it on in the stables with some wild S&M stuff in there, that's where it starts to get twisted, because in this world of absolute pain, of where like everything sucks and everyone's a monster and everyone's abusive, there's only like one warm moment. There's only one warm thing you can have, and it's this like intimacy that you share with somebody else, and that's where you get yearning, which is like 2/3 of this movie. They're just they are so hot for each other, but for some reason can't make it happen. I've heard a lot of people say this movie's a whole lot of edging. It's kind of true. For sure. It's like Saltburn does that as well. Promising Young Woman kind of does that as well. Like, yeah, that's definitely a lot of what's going on here. That's a criticism. I don't know. I can't really resolve, but you know, that's in the script, I guess.
I want to move on to cast and talk about our performances. So to round out our cast, of course, the great Margot Robbie as Catherine, Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff, Hong Chau as Nellie, her friend / maid, Shazad Latif as Edgar Linton, and Alison Oliver as Isabella. Alison Oliver, who was also in Saltburn, she was a blonde in that way. That's why I didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
And Martin Clunes plays Mr. Earnshaw, who's a kind of a combination of both the father and brother character from the book. So starting with our leads, I actually think our leads aren't great, particularly Margot Robbie feels a little miscast. She warmed to me the longer it went, but the beginning stuff, like she's kind of doing Barbie a lot of the time, and she's just not like, she's not nasty enough to be convinced. Like, because everyone in the movie is kind of nasty, yes. And I just don't buy it from Margot Robbie's character a lot of times. The other thing, people have complained about the age, because in the book they're teenagers. They start and it's kind of, they grow older. And so we have a much older cast for our leads. I don't care about that. It works for me. You could have done maybe like you had the child versions. You could have had a young adult versions or teen versions and then gotten your stars. I think Jacob Elordi is doing a good job as Heathcliff. He's super tall. He's like 6'6". And again, he's the romantasy guy. There's a part where he comes in, he walks in a window and he's like dripping wet because of the rain, and then takes off his shirt. And I was like, this is total, like, again, romantasy book kind of stuff. But he's good. Everyone else is really pretty solid. Like I said, I'm a little shaky on the Margot Robbie of it all.
Romantasy and like lit fic is incredibly popular right now. You see this in bookstores, right? Like there's a big comeuppance of this kind of stuff. We see this in shows like Bridgerton. On this very podcast, we have had success with reviews of like rom-com movies. Materialist last year was one of the best performing reviews we've ever done on the channel. So there's clearly an audience for this, and seeing the box office numbers for Wuthering Heights pulling over $80 million opening weekend, it couldn't be more obvious that like people want this. People want a bit of this energy, right? The question is, do they want what Emerald Fennell is offering, right? Because she's not offering sexy sex. She's offering kinky, painful, kind of hurts, but also kind of lovely sex. And that's a lot of what's happening in here. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's odd. And it's consistent through all three of her films, along with like issues of class, right? As somebody pointed out that all three of her films like have somebody who's kind of poor, who's like a kind of devilish, working their way up the social ladder in some fashion, right? Who's like doing something kind of evil to get there. And I think that's where Robbie's character kind of struggles, because I haven't read Wuthering Heights, but without, as I understand it, this brother character who is like very central to the novel, the movie doesn't really have a villain. So it needs one. And it kind of ends up being Catherine. And she ends up split in this place where you want to be sort of the lead, right? One half of the whole here, but also motivate the plot and this plight that our characters experience. You know, the tagline drive me mad or come undone, like, feels very appropriate, because that's exactly what these characters are doing. They're driving each other crazy for all the wrong reasons. And a lot of those reasons feel unmotivated or motivated poorly. You know what I mean? It's a lot of he said, she said. Oh, I just didn't hear that you said this thing through the door and thought you said something else. So that's why in Act 3, I'm still mad at you about this stupid thing that the audience knows didn't matter. Like, it's a lot of that. And I think that is a clunky part of this adaptation. Like Fennell has talked about how this is how she felt reading the book when she was like 14. And so what she's going for here is a vibes movie. So it was one of the things we really compliment about Saltburn, right? Immaculate vibes. The vibes are on, but the substance is a little lacking. And I think because the title is Wuthering Heights, and because it's supposed to be Wuthering Heights, and because Warner Brothers market is Wuthering Heights, with a clever set of quotations around it, which is supposed to like give them a pass for any real criticism here, there are so many readers walking into this movie with an expectation, with an idea of what it's going to be. For guys, like you said, 35 adaptations. The tagline of the movie is the greatest love story ever told. Like they are acting like this is something really big and familiar. But from what I hear, Wuthering Heights is a revenge story. It's not a love story. And like, that is a fundamental misunderstanding in what the audience thinks and what Emerald Fennell thinks this should be, along with Elordi, who is not a person of color, which I hear Heathcliff was, and is a really big deal. Like that is not something she seems to care about. Like she just does not, that has not slowed her down at all. And quickly, because I got to stop talking here, but regarding the casting, Robbie is older. I think she's 35. Elordi is in his 20s, right? Like I like that it flips this cinematic script. She talked a lot about in interviews, like kind of attributes to previous versions of the film, tributes to previous Hollywood old history. The posters got the Gone with the Wind pose, Elordi holding Robbie over, and it's like flipping the script on the idea of like Clark Gable and Scarlett O'Hara, right? Rather than having your old Hollywood man, leading man, and then your very young starlet, like it does the opposite of that. And I didn't mind that. The movie opens with a guy hanging with a boner. You know what I mean? Like I kind of figured that's what I just figured that's what we were all signing up for. I was like, okay, this is the world we're in. We're doing it. Welcome to Jackass.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say it's a perfect time to talk about controversies. And again, a whole lot of people immediately, their first thing is, well, in the book, and again, I've said you have to critique the movie you got, not the movie you wanted to get. You can observe that there are differences, and like I said, it strays wildly, but you got to appreciate what is and isn't being done. Again, it's kind of an old Hollywood thing where it used to not matter if things were if the characters were the right ages. It's like as long as they were famous, and that's kind of what's happening here as well. I don't mind it. My problem with Margot Robbie is more that she's doing Barbie a lot of times, and that she's just not nasty enough, because she's generally always playing like a good character. So I don't see her as like I just don't buy it quite as much. Again, but some of the controversy has been like in the book. Heathcliff is supposed to be Romani / a person of color. Definitely like an outsider, a foreigner, not someone who's welcome. And that's part of the whole thing. It's a discussion about class and how there's some barriers you can't cross, even if you do become wealthy. And, the book is about race and about class. And Emerald Fennell is not interested in either of those. I think she's very specifically not making commentary. Even if she's definitely not interested in talking about race. She's definitely not really interested in talking about class either. Like she just wants to make a fun, horny movie where two hot, famous people make out and paw each other the whole time. And that's what we got. And a lot of people are enjoying it, and a lot of people are mad about it.
I know. I think the movie's biggest hurdle is its title, like Wuthering Heights. And like I said, like there's a quotations around it that you might have read about. They're like, well, that makes a difference. But like, dude, this is Warner Brothers, man. Like these are the people who put out Wicked Part 1 and just left off the Part 1 off the title. And your mom went and saw it and was like, oh, I thought it was going to be both parts. These are the people who put out Dune Part 1 and left Part 1 off the title. They're not in the business of informing you. All right. They're in the business of selling tickets. Like, and Wuthering Heights sells tickets. Like, so that's what that is. And for people who are going in and are misled, like, this isn't what I wanted. I'm just like, I totally hear you, but like, I didn't know anything about it and went in just blind and came out thinking like, wow, this is a weird fucked up movie. I had a great time. And then I got online and was like, oh God, everybody hates this. 1 star. What do you mean? Like, Elordi's smoking his pipe? Hot. Margot Robbie creeping on people.
Drenched in rain. Yeah.
Weird, but kind of hot. You know what I mean? I do want to say, people have said it doesn't go far enough for an R rating. There ought to be a lot more, dick. And I think that's probably valid. I hear you. That's true. The set design doesn't work for everybody, for sure. The soundtrack kicks. The gowns kick. It looks pretty good. I don't know. It reminds me of like a B Tim Burton movie, right? Or a little bit of like Poor Things, like Yorgos Lanthimos. Not as good, for sure not as good as those movies, but like getting there. And this is her third feature, so as far as we can tell, this is kind of the space she wants to live in. You know, things that are kind of about class and are kind of horny, but also scorn the idea of intimacy a little bit. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what she's trying to say, but like she's clearly got a style. She's got something here that works. And I think out of her three features, this is the one where I'm starting to see that the most. Like, okay, you told me from Jump Street, from the opening frame, this is going to be weird, gross, nasty. And then it was, and it was like, well, that's what you told me. Like, so I didn't feel particularly misled. I don't know.
Yeah, it has a lot of almost music video vibes, especially when the Charlie XCX score comes in, which I've been listening to that album. I've really enjoyed that. You know, it's obviously very anachronistic. But yeah, she's going for vibes. And like I said, I saw it in a full theater. I saw people of all ages. I saw older couples, younger couples, people my same age. The two girls, there were these two young women next to me who had read the book, and they were like gasping and like covering their mouths like every like 10 minutes. Like, and it's like, that's why you go to the movies, man. You want to be excited and surprised and shocked, and people were laughing at the different parts that were humorous. Like, it was totally working.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff in here that works. Even stuff that people have said like, this is gross and doesn't work. You got a chick on a chain barking like a dog. Like, I'm into it. It's great. Why not? Throw it against the wall. You know what I mean? You got Jacob Elordi riding off into the sunset against this blood red sky. Do it. Go for it. Like, it doesn't all work. It's so different from the book. And I haven't read the book, but like everything I've heard about the book, all the criticism I've seen, everybody's like, it gets it so wrong. And I totally see that. I almost wish it wasn't called Wuthering Heights. I wish it was just something else and she changed a couple names and just said, it's inspired by, it reminds me of. That would have been a better service, I think, for selling the film. But this is what we got. This is Wuthering Heights, Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. And I don't know. Any other thoughts, recommendations?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights?
Yeah, I would. It was a big surprise. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect to. Our leads are fairly strong. Again, it's not an authentic or accurate representation of the book. It veers wildly about halfway through. It's more in the literary fiction, romantasy, hot people yearning after each other, pawing at each other in beautiful style and gowns and all that. I saw it with a big crowd, loved it. So I would definitely recommend it if you're interested in it.
Yeah, I had fun in Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is a terrible movie about horrible people who are awful to each other all of the time. And I had a great time in it. And I haven't read the book. And I think, for people who did and don't want that, bad news for you. This is not the adaptation for you. But if you're looking for something really strange, let me tell you, Wuthering Heights is great. Don't take your parents to go see Wuthering Heights. This is not a movie to see with the folks, for sure. Maybe take an intimate friend of yours, I think, at best. Or some friends you can laugh at it with. That's Wuthering Heights. Man, we got to move on to some upcoming trailers. A couple quick ones this week. What do we call this segment, Andy?
It's time for the trailer park. So our first trailer is this is actually a TV thing that we're going to review, which this might be the first time we've done a TV trailer. Spider-Noir, which is a character you might remember from Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, the animated films. Spider-Noir is one of the characters voiced by Nicolas Cage, who's like a 1930s noir detective who is, it's the Spider-Man mythos. He's bitten by a spider, fights crime, but in the 30s. He's voiced by Nicolas Cage, and he is going to be played by Nicolas Cage in an 8-episode series on Amazon Prime. He plays Ben Reilly, who's a detective in the 30s. It's in black and white. Interestingly enough, optionally black and white. You will be able to watch it in full color if you choose to. So that's an interesting thing. You get both options. But you get the Spider-Man mythos, but he's also kind of like a hard drinking, hard smoking character, which you generally don't get. Like Peter Parker is legally not allowed to smoke or drink alcohol in his depictions. So we get a lot of that kind of detective stuff. We get Nicolas Cage doing some Nicolas Cage acting. He looks like he's having a good time. He's a big comic book and superhero fan, so I'm excited to see it. This comes out May 27th, end of the summer, and they're dropping all 8 episodes right on May 27th.
Yeah, this reminds me a little bit of that Marvel werewolf series. What is that? Dark by Night or
Werewolf
something?
by Night.
Werewolf by Night, because they did the same thing. It was like half black and white, or it was black and white, and then I think later they released the color version. But originally they were like, this is kind of what we're going for. It's a noir thing. I remember seeing stuff about Spider-Noir and being a big shit talker. I was like, this is going to be bomb. This looks terrible. And then actually watching the trailer, like, oh, this looks artful and thoughtful. Okay, maybe there's something here. 8 episodes, a lot to carry. I don't know what the premise is, but I like Cage. I like weird black and white projects. I don't know, man. It could be a good time. So I'm a little lukewarm on Spider-Noir, but like a couple good reviews for the first episode. I'll check it out. Seems like it'll be a fun time. We need to talk about Obsession. This is the trailer for the new Curry Barker film. Curry Barker sounds a lot like Clive Barker. Did a film just last year called Milk and Cereal, which went straight to YouTube, I think. And I had put it on our watch list for a little while, but it wasn't quite feature length, and I didn't know a lot about it, and we didn't end up getting around to it. But I heard it was kind of a cult banger that was just kind of put on the internet. Obsession is a theatrical film, simple premise. After breaking the one wish willow to win his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers some desires come from a dark, sinister place. It's a cursed object movie, right? Guy wants to date a girl. He breaks this little novelty stick thing that he finds, and it's like 50s packaging, and she's absolutely obsessed with him. Notably stars Michael Johnston as our lead, who I thought was the kid from Halloween 3, but he's not. I'm learning this on IMDb right now. Yeah, that last Halloween movie, I thought he was that guy, but he's not that guy. I don't know who the gal is. It's a small cast, but it's a simple, you want something, monkey's paw, and it goes too far. It's really funny. There's an episode of the show, Goosebumps, R.L. Stine show, that covered this actually very similarly, but it's been done before. Curious to see how Curry Barker does it. What do you think, Andy?
Man, this looks cool. We saw the teaser a little while back, and I was really intrigued because in that it showed a little bit more where he's calling the helpline, and he's like, "Can I kind of undo this, or can I? Is her love real?"
Doing
and they're kind of like
the substance call, like, how do I undo this horrible thing I've done?
Yeah, respect the balance. Yeah, this looks creepy, and it's also kind of this obsessive, like he wishes for this girl's love, and then there's some blood spattered moments, and it's like, oh, did she see you talking to another girl, or is there someone else that got in the way? And so I think there's probably a metaphor there about toxic relationships. But it looks pretty cool that it comes out in the middle of May. It's got a summer release date, which is usually pretty hot. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. One more to cover. The big trailer, I think, for the weekend. What is it, Andy?
We got today the second full trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which comes out May 22nd, I believe. So we got to see a little bit more of what's going on in this movie. And it starts with a whole lot of nostalgia because there's like, they're in the Millennium Falcon or something very similar, and you get the Star Wars theme and you get the X-Wings, and then it kind of cuts to just them. It's a whole lot of lone wolf and cub. It's literally just them two the entire trailer, and they run into Jabba the Hutt and Rhoda the Hutt and someone that looks like Greedo. Sigourney Weaver's in here. We get a little bit more action. And then we just get what looks like another episode of The Mandalorian where he's like, oh, you got these bad guys? Well, I'll take care of them. Pedro Pascal looks like he's had it with this suit and being in this suit. He just looks like he doesn't want to be there. He's tired.
Grumpy.
He looks considerably old. I mean, it was 7 years since he first started in the show. So like it's been a while, and you can kind of it just looks like he's over it. And he's definitely not in the suit any other time that the helmet's on. This looked worse. I was more looking forward to this from the first trailer than I was for this. We'll see it, but I just don't know how this is going to do.
Yeah, I just feel like probably the same that you've probably heard a lot of film reviewers say this online. Like Star Wars just used to be an event thing at the box office, and this is so obviously not that. This is so obviously like the Moana 2 approach, where it's like we were going to make a season 4 of Mandalorian and Grogu, and then somebody at Star Wars said, wait, what if we put it in theaters? All right, we'll just pivot. We'll just use all the same sets. We'll use the volume. We'll shoot it the way we were going to shoot it. But instead of being, 8 episodes, we'll just do a 2.5-hour feature. It'll be great. And like, look, it worked great for Moana 2, man. That movie made $1 billion for sure. But Star Wars is not exactly in the same place Moana is. They've been struggling to get a movie in theaters. After this, they've got Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, starring Ryan Gosling as another astronaut role following Project Hail Mary. I think that one may be a bit more in the realm of what we're looking for, but this almost feels like a soft re-entry. You know what I mean? Rather than come out big with a new proper Star Wars film, we're going to kind of just do this thing and see what happens, And I didn't watch the last couple episodes of the last couple seasons of Mandalorian and Grogu. I didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett. I'm not caught up on this. This feels like homework. I don't really know what I'm getting into here, but I do hear, for what it's worth, I know a couple Star Wars fans. Apparently there are some sneaky cameos in here that are awesome. If you're a Star Wars fan, they got like a couple Star Wars Rebels characters and stuff. That's all rad. Not knowing anything about that just doesn't give me, I don't have any cultural cachet going into it for this, I don't see this movie making $1 billion. I don't know how much money it's going to make, actually.
Yeah, I had some of that too, where they made someone out to be a big deal, and I was like, I have no idea who that person is, and I used to be a pretty big Star Wars fan, and and again, it's because it's very niche. It's from Star Wars Rebels or the expanded universe stuff. So if you've really been paying attention, you might know, but I know that, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like, they do not care about Star Wars. That's your grandpa's property. They're not interested. So I don't know how this is going to do. Maybe, it's very family friendly probably, so take the kids, but it has yet to be seen. I'm not super excited about it.
May 22nd release. I haven't looked exactly what's coming out that weekend, but if we know Disney, it's probably pretty isolated in there. So if it's anything like Sony Pictures GOAT just pulled off last weekend, like if it's just by itself enough on the calendar, it'll pull attention for sure. But like, I don't know, man, like this movie's going to come out and like, I feel like my parents are going to have no idea a new Star Wars movie came and went. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, there was a Star Wars movie in theaters? I had no idea. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a different approach. And if I owned Star Wars, I would want my movies to feel like events. I just don't know if this is that. They had that Super Bowl commercial we talked about last weekend, which was like, I don't know.
Rough.
I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. I don't know how this movie's going to do. Probably make over $400 million or something would be huge, but we'll see. Yeah, we should talk about Nuremberg. Any other thoughts on this before we jump into it, Andy?
No, I'm ready to move on.
Perfect. Allow me to take the summary on this. Please excuse me, funny delivery. The movie is Nuremberg. So it's shortly after World War II. Hitler has been, I'm going to say, defeated. When his second in command, Hermann Göring, right, is captured by American forces, along with 21 other high level Nazi officers from Germany. All of them are brought to Nuremberg. I was going to say Nürburgring, which is a track in Germany. It's not actually the right place.
Track.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
all of them came to Nuremberg, where they are tried by a tribunal of judges from around the world for human war crimes and atrocities. But there's a catch. Before they are put on trial, they are to be evaluated by a young U.S. Army psychiatrist played by Rami Malek. He arrives at Nuremberg and is quickly informed of what his role is going to be there. He's introduced to Russell Crowe's Hermann Göring, along with Michael Shannon, who's playing kind of lead prosecutor and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to be. Robert Jackson is his character's name. And that's when we begin to get into kind of a cat and mouse psychological game between Malek's psychiatrist and Hermann Göring, who claims that he will escape the hangman's noose. No matter what happens. We can pull off the ultimate magic trick and get out of all of this. And of course, the mystery at the center of all this, that none of the Americans are keenly aware of yet, is that at all of the concentration camps there are horrible war crimes. As far as they know, they were just kind of hearing musings that something was going on in all these concentration camps across Germany. but they don't know for sure. And then once we get into the film and we get the trial going, that's when we're going to start discovering, oh, things were quite dire and things were not all as they seem at Nuremberg. Advertised as a World War II thriller. The movie stars Russell Crowe, Rami Malek, Michael Shannon is in this movie. John Slattery is in this movie. Colin Hanks, newcomer Leo Woodall. Let's talk about it. Andy, what did you think of Nuremberg?
So I think I ended up liking this more than I had anticipated. It like you said, it has a really great cast. It's kind of a who's who cast, but it is very cheap in every other aspect. Like the production and set design, just you can tell they're cutting corners, and all the money's going towards our stars. But it is more of a drama. It reminds me a little bit of Silence of the Lambs. You have a young, kind of inexperienced psychiatrist interviewing a Hannibal Lecter-esque character in Hermann Göring, who was the second in command in the Nazi government, and he has to kind of evaluate these men, but for the purposes of kind of legal strategies. Because the whole thing is, how do we prosecute these men? What are we charging them with? And the main thing is knowledge, that they knew what was happening at these camps, that they signed off on it, that they and likewise the defense is, we didn't know, we were just signing orders, we were just following orders, the classic defense that was used. And so it's an interesting like you said, cat and mouse between Russell Crowe, who is really good in this role. We kind of dogged on him earlier when we heard about this. He is really good. He's got to do a thick German accent the whole time, and he does well. He doesn't have to do anything; he just sits in the cell the whole time. And he's at that point of his career where if he's got to move, he's not doing the movie, but he'll sit down and and act.
Yeah.
Our B plots, I wasn't sure who the main character was initially, because the first character we meet is Michael Shannon as Justice Jackson, but he's actually the B plot. He's the one putting together the trials, because nothing like this had ever been done. They didn't know how to legally prosecute. They had to create this tribunal. They had to get an international coalition, international judges and lawyers. So he's dealing with that, getting this together. How are we going to get people to buy in? We have to prosecute, and it's got to be a slam dunk. There can't be any doubt. He has a couple of good speeches about how all this started and the purpose of all this. So it's very informational. If you don't know anything about the Nuremberg trials, which I knew very little, outside of that, if they were just the Nazi trials, it is informative on that. You do kind of learn a little bit more about what actually happened.
Yeah, it's tough. I think this movie would be better if it wasn't trying to do so much. It's long. It's 2.5 hours. Directed by James Vanderbilt, who has produced a lot of really cool features, especially with David Fincher, I think Seven and Fight Club. But as far as directing goes, it did one film in 2015. I think the movie's name is called Truth, and then has not done anything before this, a decade later, right? So it's not exactly, I don't want to say practice director, but honestly, yeah, it has not spent a lot of time actually physically calling the shots behind the camera, just producing on the side. And that's big in its own right. The movie has a lot of historical weight, that really becomes evident in Act 2 when we get kind of a really pivotal scene in the movie, probably the most bracing scene in the film, when we are actually at the trials and we get a 16 millimeter projector reel of here's what we've discovered at the camps. And then it cuts to just insane real footage that I can't believe gets by on a PG-13 rating in this film is nuts. The stuff they've got in that, which is just real footage of real bodies getting pushed around with bulldozers and stuff. It's horrifying and gives huge weight and context to what this is. But I think with the budget and what's here, I wish it had been smaller. I wish it had been 45 minutes shorter, or better yet, maybe add 15 and make it a 3-episode limited series and put it on HBO or Netflix or something. You know what I mean? It just lands in this thing where it's as long as Fellowship of the Ring, and it historically is grander, right? But then you actually watch it and you're oh, this is hardly a World War II thriller. Because there's not a lot thrilling happening about it. You know what I mean? It's more informative, and it's based on this kind of story of this psychiatrist getting to know this very great and terrible man, and I think that's good for what the movie's supposed to be, but it just doesn't get up to the level I had hoped. So I wasn't as into it as you were. Let's talk a little bit about I guess plot, man. Like, I know I kind of covered it at the top, but like I said at the beginning of the movie, Hermann Göring is captured. They are taken to Nuremberg, where they are introduced to Rami Malek's character, who is a sleight of hand U.S. Army psychiatrist. Got a lot of magic. He's like working a deck of cards, and he can make a quarter disappear, and that's kind of a little bit of a theme running through our script here, which is also a screenplay by Vanderbilt. Like once he kind of gets talking to Göring, it seems like, I guess in my head, I thought we were going to have a bit more cat and mouse, and instead they kind of just quickly become friends. Which I was like, oh no, like, oh
yes,
no.
He befriends.
Yeah, this is the Friends with Nazi movie. Rami Malek is fine. He's kind of trying to do it. Honestly, the opening of the movie when he's coming in on the train and he's like a slick talking young hotshot U.S. Army psychiatrist, it reminded me of Jurassic Park. I was like, oh no, he's Alan Grant and he's going to see the dinosaurs, but the dinosaurs are Nazi war criminals, right? But it's not that. It's much more Silence of the Lambs. You're absolutely right. Like he's much more young Clarice Starling, who is like star person on the squad, who's like being put with this horrible monster. And Göring starts to reel them in, and he starts to kind of, I don't know, starts to do favors for Göring and start to like, yeah, maybe things aren't so bad, which makes this turn in Act 2 very meaningful. Michael Shannon is delightful, is our kind of lead prosecutor. And I did rip a lot on Russell Crowe being a fat Nazi, and I'm right, he is. He's sitting down in almost every scene. But unlike Steven Seagal, who I compared him to, he's good. He's very good. He's admittedly good. I can't get around it, man. He does the German great. He does the accent great. He's going all the way for it in this movie. It is not a very physical performance. But God, Crowe can demand drama, man. Like he can, it just comes right out of him. So like Crowe is the best performance in the movie, hands down.
Yeah. The central relationship here is between, Malek and Russell Crowe. And the Kelly Göring, because they meet quite a bit. And yes, they do. They don't want to admit that, like Kelly doesn't want to admit this, that they kind of become friends, which seems horrific and unthinkable. But I think part of what this movie, and also reminds me of things like The Zone of Interest and other more modern tellings about this period, is to humanize the Nazis, but not for the purposes of sympathy at all, but for the purposes of portraying these people as normal, everyday people who did terrible things, not kind of mythical boogeymen and monsters. Or that's kind of what Rami Malek's character says at the beginning. He's like, oh, maybe we can diagnose evil. We can say find out what makes them different from us. And by the end, he's like, they are no different from us. We are all the same. They just did these terrible things. They aren't any different from us, and we need to remember that, which is prescient for a lot of things happening today, frankly. Which I think is, I mean, this movie's been a couple of years into production, and it's still very prescient for things happening today all around the world. Some other fine performances. The great Richard E. Grant is in here as the British lawyer. Michael Shannon as the Chief Justice prosecuting this whole thing. He gets a couple of good monologues. Colin Hanks just kind of randomly shows up. Has two scenes, and then he's never seen from again. John Slattery is the colonel who's overseeing the prison. It's fine. He kind of seems a little out of place for some reason. He doesn't have the period.
Yeah,
look.
Yeah. We were talking about it just yesterday, and I was thinking of Slattery. He's supposed to kind of be this. He's effectively like the army sergeant or general here that is in charge of keeping all of the Nazis alive. And also under close watch, obviously. So he's got to command these guards and make sure everybody's good. And a few of these guys are actively trying to commit suicide. They've had a problem with cyanide capsules in the past because the Nazis don't want to swing for what they've done, obviously, right? Who would? You're right. Like, it definitely makes a great effort. Well, hold on. So regarding Slattery, he just ends up coming off kind of phony in a way that I just didn't really buy. I wish they'd gotten a couple more takes with him of some stuff and maybe just kind of like, hey, try to lead into this a little bit more. I don't need you to be, Roger Sterling from Mad Men or anything, but like he just ends up kind of being this wide-eyed, kind of angry man who is strange. Also, Leo Woodall is kind of palling around with Rami Malek, who Leo Woodall's newcomer. You might have seen him in HBO's The White Lotus. He was in the most recent Bridget Jones movie. Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. I think he's the young interest that Renee Zellweger's kind of chasing in that movie. Otherwise, I haven't seen him in anything. And he plays kind of this, I don't want to say lackey, but translator, really, for Rami Malek and the Nazis that he's working with. He's kind of got a backstory in there. It's fine. Like him and Malek are not really friends. Like that never really comes out, even though they do start to pal around a bit. I think Malek's character has this funny sort of like reflection of Göring too, and that Malek is very much motivated by writing a book. Makes it very clear in the open that, hey, I can write a book about all this and I can coast the rest of my life. And there's a great scene when Göring comes in and says, you're not like, you're just going to write about me because I'm the book. You're nothing. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one who's built something great. You have not built anything. It's messy, and you're right. Like it definitely gets at this notion of like anybody, this could happen to anybody. These are people just like anybody else. You know, this is going to happen again. But like that also ends off, I don't know, coming off quite dour and ultimately challenging because you kind of know where the movie's going, right? Like you may not know exactly how Nuremberg worked, but you know, sitting down, most of these guys aren't making it out of here. You know what I mean? Like we know that the trials are going to continue and that the Nazis who are on trial are probably not going to have a great ending, you know? And so that makes a long runtime feel a little bit longer because you're like, I don't know, it makes these climactic confrontational scenes feel a little loaded because you kind of already know the ending. Like you kind of know where it's going.
Yeah, the drama is kind of neutered because of that. We all know all these people will hang after. I'm pretty sure people getting hung in both of our movies this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does kind of take a lot of the drama out. Like I said, I was really surprised when in the middle of the trials they do show actual footage from the concentration camps that's historical and accurate, and it was just kind of surprised because none of the rest of the movie is that serious, and then it gets super serious there. I feel like we can almost spoil the whole thing because it's history.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drama, a lot of it doesn't work entirely, but the performances I think save it as much as they can. Like I said, Russell Crowe's doing a really great job after playing a priest and an exorcist in his last two movies.
Yeah, it's just little subtleties that I think punch this up and don't just leave it in like streaming slop space because it's not. It was a VOD for $6 on Amazon. We rented it to check it out. You know, like Russell Crowe is the only Nazi who's not featured in like black or green. His clothes are notably different colors. It's like light blue, you know, that he wears throughout the movie, which like kind of separates him visually and starts to maybe give credence to this idea that he didn't know exactly what was happening at the camps, that he didn't pass those orders, and that he maybe isn't keenly, like, I don't know, maybe should be absolved of a little bit of responsibility, which is part of what's going on here. Like you said, there's that very arresting scene where they kind of show a lot of stuff, but also the movie does, I think, charmingly make a good effort to kick a couple Nazis while they're down. There's an execution scene at the end of this that's like made into a laugh at the end, like, which I think is a really intentional effort to kind of, you know, throw a little dirt on these guys and be like, hey, this all sucked. You know what I mean? This was all bad and you shouldn't have done this. And like, I think that's meaningful. I think its heart's in the right place. It just ends up being a little bit too much for me. Like it's supposed to be this 2.5 hour epic World War II thriller. And like, it's a much quieter boiler pot kind of thing, you know, like I don't think Nuremberg's trying to be anything. I worry Nuremberg is trying to be bigger than it is.
Yeah, like you said, it would have made a better series. At 2.5 hours, it's way too long. It either needed to cut down and be shorter or be a 3 or 4 episode thing. That's probably in pace with the book. This is based on a book as well, not Douglas Kelly's book. It also ends really kind of strangely because it doesn't end at the executions. We kind of get some a
like
couple
text
of scenes
scroll, at the end.
Yeah,
like, hey,
text
here's what
scroll
happened.
like,
yeah.
So it kind of keeps going longer than it should as well. It doesn't wrap up very cleanly, but like you said, its heart's in the right place. It's just the execution didn't quite work.
Yeah, like I think what this is good, but it's not great, and that's okay because what it's trying to depict is a great evil, right? Like, and this great effort made by, you know, humanity to say, hey, we're going to put these guys on trial and that no one will be a martyr and that no one is above the law. Even if the law is international and we don't have like an exact set of rules and regulations for how we should try international courts for war crimes, you know what I mean? Like we're going to kind of figure it out. And I think that's meaningful. I think the messaging in there is important because for people who don't know Nuremberg and don't know how this stuff worked, it's good. I honestly, they're like Andy, you said, it's a bit prescient because I think that there's a lot of people who hope that there will be some kind of Nuremberg for political, I don't want to say enemies, but I think people hope that like there are people in politics who will be put on trial later. That later you will have to answer for these things that you did, right? Like that someday someone's going to come along and you're going to have to like really stand up for what you do or don't believe in. And I don't know if the movie does a good job of mythologizing that or not, because it almost puts it out of arm's reach. The ending is a little harrowing in a way that I didn't expect, but challenging. I don't know. We should get to recommendations. I think that's where I'm going. I'm talking in circles. Andy, would you recommend Nuremberg?
It's perfect for streaming because of its length. It's easy that you can watch it in parts. If you're interested in this period in history, in the Nuremberg trials, and what happened after World War II when we captured and tried some of these people, I think it is interesting for history buffs. For the casual viewer, I think, like I said, it's too long. It's a little slow. It's a little boring in parts. Good performances. The performances really save it. Russell Crowe is really good. There was Oscar talk of him. That didn't quite work out, but he's really good in this movie. A lot of good supporting actors. So I say perfect for streaming if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. This would be great if it was streaming, but we had to rent it on VOD for $6. And if you rent it, you get 48-hour access, maybe 72. And I don't know if that's the best way to watch this. It might be better broken up a little bit because 2.5 hours, and that's a long sit for not quite the thriller that it's trying to be. It's something a little bit more bolted down, a little bit more grounded, and I think it's good, but I would say wait for this to come to Prime or Netflix or something, and then you could either take an afternoon and take a pass at it or like kind of watch it in bits because it's just a little too full. A little too full, that's all. But yeah, that's Nuremberg. That's episode 326 of Off Script Film Review. My God, what a week. Let me tell you, dude, I was worrying about talking about Wuthering Heights all week. And now that we've talked about it, I'm sure that the review will go up great and no one will tell me that I was wrong and an idiot. So
we'll go
what are we
viral
watching
again.
Oh God, what are we watching? Big problems. What are we watching next week?
We're going to be taking a look at How to Make a Killing, which is a new comedy heist kind of style movie starring Glenn Powell and Margaret Qualley. He plays the 7th or 8th sibling in a wealthy billionaire family, and he's like 7th or 8th in line to inherit the wealth. So he comes up with a plan of offing the rest of his family members so that he can inherit the estate as a Booker Red fellow. Like I said, also stars the great Margaret Qualley. Haven't heard a lot of this. We're worried Glenn Powell may not have the juice, but I definitely want to go and support it. And then we'll be looking at some. We'll find something on streaming in the $6 bin on Amazon, like we've been looking at. And then next week we're also going to be taking a look at. We're going to be doing TV Corner and doing recaps of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which wraps up this weekend, and Fallout Season 2, which wrapped up last week. So TV Corner next week.
I got to catch up on TV. Yeah, How to Make a Killing looks like it's just in a weird space, coming off of Seeing No Other Choice. Two very different films, but both are kind of about like a man who has to climb the social ladder by committing atrocities on other individuals, right? Like, I don't know. We'll see. I like Glenn Powell fine, love Qualley. We'll check it out. We'll keep you posted. If you want to hear what we think of How to Make a Killing, or, just want to check in with what we got going on in the show, easiest way to do that is to follow the YouTube page, Off Script Film Review. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all these are social media places. You can follow us over there as well. Like, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, what have you. Our audio listeners, you can find us on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartMedia at Off Script Film Review for the ears edition of the pod. While you're over there, do us a favor, leave us a platform review over there too. Honestly, every little bit helps. Every little bit of engagement helps. It's seriously. Let's see. You can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com. You can mail us correspondence directly. Let us know what you thought of Wuthering Heights. Mail at offscriptfilmreview.com. From all of us at Offscript, the home of bold cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.